Good morning or good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are joining us from. And welcome to today's webinar. My name is Eugenia from Business Review, and I will be your host. It's our pleasure to have Baldwin with us today, and who will be presenting this webinar titled The Role of Serial Numbers and Barcodes on Revenue Tax Stamps. Today's guest speakers are Erwin Wagner, Global Sales Manager for Security Print at Baldwin, Gerry Stanford, Global Sales Leader for Security Print at Baldwin, and Keogh, Vice President AIR, UV Equipment and UV Lamp Business at Baldwin. Now I will provide some housekeeping information before we start. First of all, I would like to welcome everyone to our webinar platform On24. You will notice that this webinar is browser-based, so if you disconnect for any reason, please just click on the link that you received via email to rejoin the session. In order to ask questions, you can send them in via the Q&A widget. Just type them into the box at the top right corner of your screen and click Submit. We will allocate some time at the end of the session to address any questions or thoughts that you may have. But please note, even if your question doesn't get answered today, it will be available to be answered at a later date. There will also be a short survey that we would appreciate you to fill out at the end of the event. Now, please allow me to welcome Erwin Wagner. Over to you, Erwin.
Well, thank you very much for the kind introduction, Eugenia. Let me first of all introduce you to our company. Give me 1 second. Baldwin Technology Company is a $200 million organization that is focused on print technology. Baldwin is a member of the International Tax Stamp Association, ITSA, and is owned by BW partner Foresight Partners, which is the investment arm of its parent company, Barry Waymiller, a multi-billion-dollar global manufacturing and engineering consulting firm. But let's talk a little about tax stamps in general. I mean, they are believed to have originated in Venice in 1604, introduced in Spain in the 1610s, and then instituted in the Netherlands, France, and England in the 1620s. But other records actually indicate that the Ottoman Empire has already been using a form of stamp duty, damga resmi, in the 16th century, so approximately 100 years earlier. So tax stamps, or also referred to as revenue stamps, fiscal stamps, duty stamps, are used to collect taxes on, let's say, for example, documents, tobacco, alcoholic beverages, medicines, drugs, perfumes, licenses, registration forms, certificates, even playing cards and entertainment. So my own first personal experience with tax stamps was with this example of my own birth certificate. And the 3 shilling stamp on this back then was only around 12 cents. So I believe taxes have increased quite a bit since then. But the most recognized form of tax stamp is very likely the cigarette tax stamp. I'm sure that most everybody remembers seeing them on cigarette packs and cartons. But let's take a look at some of the security features that we find on current revenue tax stamps. Some of these features that you can see here are microprint, holographic foils and stripes, intaglio print, some invisible UV fluorescent features, thermosensitive print, serial numbers and barcodes, both visible and covert, are used on tax stamps. But these are some of the common features that can be found on modern or up-to-date tax stamps. Some of the additional security features can be seen on this example, including a version of a 2D barcode, which together with the serial number can be used to authenticate a product, as well as be used for track and trace purposes. Yeah, so serial numbers and barcodes are actually very important features on higher end and more sophisticated tax stamps. This old example of a tax stamp shows that even early tax stamps already had serial numbers. This example applied with a rubber stamp. No barcodes yet on this example. These were not introduced until 1948. Now, compared to the previous number, this illustrates quite a leap in technology from a hand stamped serial number to this complex arched curved covert micro serial number, visible under UV ink, or some of these examples are printed with IR absorbent inks. But UV fluorescent inks are also used to print covert background features. So the top example shows the image taken under white light, the bottom under UV light, where you can see the hidden UV fluorescent features in the background. So the purpose of a track and trace system is to identify a single product as unique and authentic. This is achieved by marking it with a unique identifier. This identifier can be an overt serial number or barcode in combination with a covert digital code printed with invisible UV fluorescent or IR inks. So serial numbers, barcode, and covert data are used as added security features for this purpose. So these two images illustrate a tax stamp designed for the addition of serial number and barcode. Note that a specific area of the stamp has been reserved for these unique features. Keeping the background neutral in your design provides better contrast to enable barcode readers to easily decode the 2D barcodes and for easier reading of the serial numbers. So let me hand over to my colleague, Gerry, now. Gerry, please go ahead. Yeah, Gerry is about 1,748 miles away to my west, so it may take a little while.
Sorry, I was muted. Sorry, Erwin. So we'd like to show you a little bit about how serial numbers, barcodes, and special security features can be printed. And so what we're going to show here is some solutions for that. And what you can see here is this first example is based on a sheet transport line in a 500 millimeter width. Let me see if I can activate my pointer here. So you can see here that this is a 1/2 meter wide transport, and this line includes the printing, curing, and inspection capabilities typically used for tax stamps. This solution is a common solution, and I'll show you a video of this type of line in a moment. The second solution that we see is example, it's on a larger 1 meter wide transport. So it's for larger sheets. While this larger line is more typically used for banknotes and other large sheet security applications, this line can be used for larger tax stamp sheets, or we see it used as part of a multi-purpose solution where the customer is running tax stamps, but they might also be running some other security products in larger sheets, so they can use this line for multiple purposes. These complete solution lines are highly modular and can be configured to meet current needs, and they're easily upgradable to meet future requirements. So if sufficient space is available, the individual printing, curing, and quality control systems can also be retrofitted on existing printing lines, including web lines. So now we're going to go to, sorry, I'm going to go back here. We have a video we'd like to play. This, let me see here. I'm not sure if you're seeing the video there, but the video is an example of a 500 millimeter wide sheet solution for inspection, inkjet, printing, verifying the inkjet print, managing defects, and counting good products. And on this picture is taken from the video line, and you can see that in this picture, the picture highlights the key processes that are put onto this line. Looking from right to left in the direction of sheet travel, if I can show a pointer here, looking from right to left, you can see this first unit here is an inspection system for all visible print features that are on the substrate, the visible print features that were printed in a previous process. The second unit is an inspection system equipped to verify the quality of covert UV print features from the previous process. The third unit is an inkjet printing system used to add serial numbers or barcodes on the tax stamps. Both overt or covert inks could be applied, and multiple ink types are possible. In this case, UV curable ink was used. The fourth unit here is an additional inspection system. The fourth unit is an additional inspection system used to confirm the quality and accuracy of the inkjet that was just applied. And then the fifth unit is an LED UV curing system, which is required for this application using UV curable ink. These lines can be equipped with multiple inspection and inkjet systems if both overt and covert codes or numbers are required. And now we're going to move to another video, which will show the end of this line. And so this last video shows the inspection and inkjet area in a bit more detail, as well as the end-of-line defect management and good product areas. Here you can see that after the sheets are printed and fully inspected, any sheets with a defect can be removed from the line via a reject gate. These lines can be equipped with multiple reject gates to provide the ability to sort by defect type. All good sheets are transported to the final stack unit. Let's see here. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the, let's discuss how to verify the quality and accuracy of your tax stamps. Here are some expectations of a modern high capability quality control system. The inspection system should be able to inspect all visible print features. The inspection system should be able to inspect covert features such as those printed with UV fluorescent ink. The system should be able to verify printed serial numbers that are printed with either visible or covert UV or IR inks. The system should be able to decode barcodes and verify that they are correct and match your data file. The system should be able to also be optioned with the ability to provide ANSI ISO grading of the barcodes if required. And an inspection system should be able to be configured to inspect any optically variable devices, such as holographic features, and as well as optically variable inks. It may be useful to choose a system that has the ability of providing relative color measurement. The system should have the ability to provide registration checking at a minimum, but preferably be able to provide precise dimensional measurement to confirm the positional accuracy of all print features, barcodes, and serial numbers. Some systems are available to inspect magnetic ink, which is used for some numbering and other security product applications. Continuing on, we would like to talk about how accurate printing of serial numbers is critical. Here are some expectations for an inspection system to verify serial numbers. The inspection system should be reliable and feature the sophisticated software required to provide very high recognition rates of your numbers. The system should have high camera resolution to be able to decode the smallest numbers and characters. The system should be able to handle low contrast between characters and the background. The system should allow any character or font type to be used and trained for inspection. The system should be able to handle, the system should be able to handle low contrast between characters and the background, and the system software should allow any character or font type to be used and trained for inspection. The ability to decode and read the serial code line in any direction and shape, as well as read prefix, suffix, and special characters, and read a code line of variable size characters, and verify positional accuracy and alignment are critical capabilities of a serial number inspection system. And finally, the system should be able to create data files and reports. This next slide, this is just one example of a data report for barcodes and variable data from an inspection system. Reports can typically be configured to provide the specific variable data information required for each application. So now I would like to hand it over to my colleague Pat Keogh to talk about UV curable inks.
Hi, everybody. I guess most people will be familiar with traditional inks that sometimes take a little while to dry, or sometimes you can speed up the drying of them using infrared systems. But today I just want to talk a little bit more about UV curable inks and what makes them much, much better for applications like this. Basically, with a UV system, the inks and the coatings are instantly cured or instantly dried. It all happens in a fraction of a second. And it doesn't matter what speed your machine is going at, we can supply an LED system or a UV system to cover that. So the ink droplets are immediately frozen on the surface of the substrate. And this means that they will just sit on the top. There's no absorption into the material. And whatever dot size you wanted or whatever droplet size came from an inkjet head remains the same and undisturbed. There's no ink absorbed into the material at all, so there's no dot gain. Another huge benefit is that you end up with absolutely no danger of any smudging or any marking as it moves through the machine. And the scratch and abrasion and chemical resistance is extremely good. It's much, much better than it is with conventional oil-based or water-based inks. And it's incredibly durable, which is ideal for security type applications. And another real big benefit of UV curable inks is the fact that what you see is what you get. You get very, very sharp, very vibrant colors, and there's no color variation. Unlike with conventional inks, sometimes you have a situation where as it takes a time for it to dry and some of it gets absorbed into the material, you will have maybe a slightly different color when it's dried compared to what you looked at when it came off the machine initially. But with a UV system, because it's already instantly cured, instantly dried, nothing will change afterwards. So what you see is exactly what you get. So there's no danger of changes later. Another real big benefit to UV curable inks is excellent adhesion to almost any substrate. And that can be paper, board, plastic, or whatever it needs to be. The only thing I would say is that if you're dealing with some plastic substrates, you just need to be a little bit careful about the surface tension of the material. But on the whole, the adhesion is absolutely superb and very sometimes difficult to actually try and remove it. And the other real big benefit, particularly in the modern world of inkjet or even UV curable materials, is the fact that it's extremely environmentally friendly. There are absolutely no solvents, no VOCs at all involved in UV curable inks. And as regards to UV systems, today we are moving away from traditional UV systems where you had a traditional UV lamp that produced an enormous amount of heat, and we're moving more towards LED systems. And they've got an enormous amount of benefits over traditional UV systems. For example, with a traditional UV lamp, when you switched it on, you might have to wait for it to warm up. It might take a minute or sometimes 2 minutes with older systems. And when you turn it off, you have to wait for it to cool down before you could turn it on again. With an LED system, it's instantly on, instantly off. And you can turn it on and off as an unlimited number of cycles. The output of a UV LED system is pure UV. There's absolutely no IR. With traditional UV systems, the UV lamp itself would produce maybe over 50% of the output of the lamp was actually heat and IR. And this would get to the substrate and would limit some of the substrates that you could use, or it could impact the substrate. For example, if it was a light plastic, you might end up with deforming the plastic slightly because of all the heat. Or with some paper substrates, you might actually take a lot of moisture content out of the paper. With a UV system, or an LED UV system, there is absolutely no IR, there's no heat. All you get is pure UV. And this allows you a much wider range of substrates, and also you can go down to much lighter gauge plastic materials because there's no danger of it being damaged. You also end up with an LED system, you have very long and stable UV light source. With a UV lamp, for example, a typical UV lamp might last for 1,500 or 2,000 hours, and the output of the UV lamp would actually fall off over the life of the lamp. So you've got a process variable. But with an LED UV system, the output is always the same. And we've now got LED systems that have been in service for over 30,000 hours, and in some cases over 40,000 hours. And the output today is exactly as it was when the system was installed initially, maybe 10 years ago. So it actually takes away a process variable if you use an LED UV system. The other big advantage of an LED system compared to a traditional UV system is you get very high intensities. The intensity of the light allows for very, very deep cure. And this also means that if you're putting down a very heavy solid or whatever, the UV light will penetrate all the way through to the substrate to give you total cure and also excellent adhesion. There's no air movement. Traditional UV systems, there's a lot of air movement to try and keep the UV lamp cool, or the lamp head itself cool. With an LED UV system, there's a water-cooled one, there is absolutely no air movement, so there's nothing to disturb or contaminate the print or the print area. Another real big advantage is the fact that there's no ozone being produced like a traditional lamp. There's no mercury, which is a hazardous material, and there's no high voltages involved. A lot of traditional UV systems, you might have voltages of 1,500 or 2,000 volts. On a modern LED UV system, it's very rare that you'll have more than 100 volts on it, so it's obviously much, much safer. And finally, it's extremely efficient compared to traditional UV lamps. Traditional UV lamps, the output of the lamp might the energy you put in, maybe only about 25% is converted to UV. With an LED system, it's up around 45%. And there's no fans and there's no ducting and all these other things involved with it. So your energy consumption would be dramatically reduced. And we have measured cases of an LED UV system replacing a conventional UV system, and the energy consumption going down by up to 70%, which can be substantial, particularly these days when energy is costing so much. So that's my little discussion on UV curing and LED UV curing, and I'll pass it back to my colleagues.
Well, thank you very much, Pat. I mean, those are quite a few advantages that you listed there. And so you really don't know or don't understand or why not everybody is using UV inks and UV curing systems. And, you know, there's something else I thought of. There are also advantages on the printer equipment side. I mean, there's a lot less maintenance of the equipment because, you know, the inks don't dry, so the ink systems don't have to be washed down continuously, and the print heads last longer. Okay, but let's. We're here now, getting to the final part of our presentation. So I would just like to add a little bit of trivia regarding tax stamps, and the first is in the world of tax stamps. There has been a lot of excitement about new tax stamp markets, especially the cannabis tax stamp market. Has been getting a lot of coverage these recent years, but also tax stamp for vaping products. But cannabis has been pretty much on the forefront, and a lot of products have been issued or have been sold with tax stamps attached to them. But is the tax stamp market really a new market? The taxes on cannabis have actually been around since the Marijuana Tax Stamp Act, which was issued back in 1937. So that has been quite a while back, and so the tax stamp market for marijuana or cannabis has been around for quite a while. And by the way, also wanted to mention that these three tax stamps that we're featuring here or showing here, they only 2,500 of each of these displayed stamps have been printed. So collectors actually pay as much as $1,000 for this set. So if you have some of these, please hold on to them or put them on the market. Now, what do the newer cannabis excise tax stamps look like? Here we're featuring a whole host of samples of Canadian tax stamps. And I did want to mention that leaf under the word cannabis is not a cannabis leaf. Just to show you the difference, here is a cannabis leaf and a Canadian maple leaf. Yeah. So with this very important detail, you know, we would like to conclude our presentation, and would like to thank you very much for joining us on this webinar. So thank you all.
Oh, thank you very much for this presentation. And just a reminder for the audience, in order to ask questions, you can send them in via the questions widget. Just type them into the box at the top right-hand corner of your screen and click submit. Please note that you can still send your questions after the webinar, and they will be available to be answered at a later date. Okay, and it looks like we've got several questions already. Our first question is, are tax stamps subject to counterfeiting?
Gerry, want me to answer that?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay. Yes, they definitely are. And, it is estimated that around 450 billion cigarettes are sold illegally each year. So the tax stamps on these counterfeit or contraband packs are also counterfeit as well. And it is very easy. It's easier to acquire a counterfeit tax stamp than it is to find a counterfeit banknote. Basically, all you have to do is head to Mexico, buy a box of Cuban cigars, and you'll automatically get a counterfeit tax stamp.
Okay, thank you very much. And we have our next question is, what is the difference between UV inks and UV fluorescent inks?
Okay, I can also handle that. Yes, I mean, it is very common in the industry to talk about UV inks, but that can actually mean two complete different things. One, it could refer to UV curable inks, which are used to print, and as Pat mentioned, they immediately dry, they're cured with UV light. The other type of UV ink is a UV fluorescent ink, which are used as to print security features, both visible as well as covert, where visible UV fluorescent inks are seen under white light in one color, possibly even black, but then fluoresce in a different color under UV light, or they can be invisible or covert UV fluorescent inks, where they're invisible under white light, but then fluoresce in a specific color under a certain UV light wavelength. Now, both a UV fluorescent ink can also be a UV curable ink, which means it's a combination of security ink that fluoresces under UV light, but is also cured under a certain UV light wavelength. That last part just made it more complicated, didn't it? Okay, any more questions?
Yes, sure. Just a second. And yes, we have one more question. Can a serializing and barcoding machine apply other security features as well?
Sure, I can answer this one.
Okay.
So a solution for serializing and barcoding features, in addition to typically inspection systems for verifying quality, it includes typically a high quality inkjet system. And the inkjet system can be specified in a number of ways. It can be specified to just apply numbering or barcodes in a small area, or it can be specified to be a very high resolution inkjet system that can cover the full width of the sheet or web. If that second direction is chosen, you can use that inkjet system to print any other feature that can be applied by inkjet in the ink that's being used.
Okay, thank you very much. And our next question is, how many countries use tax stamps?
That is actually a very good question, and I honestly do not know the exact figure, but I do know that annually at least 120 billion tax stamps are used on tobacco and liquor products in 90 countries.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and our next question is, can the serial numbers and barcodes also be applied on a roll-to-roll process?
Gerry, yes, would you like to answer?
Yes. So everything, the example that we gave today showed a sheet transport, but every process that we showed in the sheet transport can also be applied or configured to work on a web transport or other types of machines. So the inkjet systems can be added as long as there's space, and the various inspection systems can be added as long as there's space. When we're working in a web environment, the ability to handle rejects can be different. So waste management process can be different in a web environment than a sheeted environment. But we can certainly talk in more detail about that for anybody who's interested.
Okay, thank you very much. And our next question is, if you take out sheets because of defects, how do you make sure that the correct sequence stays in place in the stack?
That is also a very good question. I mean, we have implemented systems that actually do automatic remakes. And that means that as soon as a sheet is detected to have a defect and is rejected, the information is sent to the printer to reprint those sheets. And but there are usually sheets in the process that are already between the printing system and the system that inspects these sheets. So these sheets also have to be rejected until the correct sheet is reprinted and then detected by the inspection system. So that's one possibility. The other simpler possibility is to just remake the sheets with defects at the end of the batch, which is usually a batch of 100 or 500 sheets. And then at the end, make sure that all the numbers that were within that sequence or within that batch have been reprinted correctly. So the process does not stop until, if it's 500 sheets, until 500 good sheets containing all the serial numbers that are required is on the good stack. So that is just one feature that the system can perform, or a requirement the system can accommodate.
Thank you very much. And our next question is, which tax stamps use Intaglio?
A few years ago, various different companies tried to make it a requirement to also have Intaglio as a feature on tax stamps, but that was not, or never set in place. So there are very few companies that actually do print Intaglio on tax stamps. I know Canada, for example, is one of those countries that have Intaglio features on tax stamps, but there are very few, since it is not a requirement.
Okay, thank you very much. And just a reminder for the audience, you can still send in any questions while watching on demand. All questions will be available to be answered at a later date. I would like to thank Erwin, Gerry, and Pat for this presentation, and Baldwin Technology Company for sponsoring this session. To the attendees, you will receive an email telling you how you can access the on-demand version of this webinar, or you can access this through our website, which is www.pmi-life.com. We look forward to sharing further webinars with you, so please do keep an eye out on the website just mentioned. Follow us on Twitter @BRWebinars for daily updates, and join our LinkedIn group, Business Review Webinars PMI. Thank you once again, and I hope you all have a nice day.